Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Tim. I upload new videos every week all about running. Today, I'm taking a look at two maximum cushion daily trainers. One by Saucony, their Triumph 18, which just came out a few weeks ago. And then one by Asics, their Novablast. Let's take a look and see what these shoes can do in action, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about them in much greater detail. Let's start with the cost of the shoes. So the Triumph 18 will cost 150 US dollars, while the Novablast comes in at $130. The Novablast is lighter than the 18. It weighs 9.2 ounces in a men's size 9 or 261 grams, while the Triumph 18 comes in at 11.1 ounces or 315 grams. Now let's look at the uppers on these shoes. They're very similar in a lot of ways, guys. They both have an engineered mesh upper that's made of a really soft, almost luxurious material. They both have plastic overlays in the areas where it's going to need a little extra durability. The perforations on the Novablast are a bit larger, so it allows a little more airflow to keep your feet cooler on foot on those hot days. And the Novablast is a little bit more narrow. So if you're looking for a little extra room in that toe box, then the 18 might be the way to go for you. Now let's look at the eyelet chains on these shoes. Both do a terrific job keeping your foot feel like it's secure and locked in. With the Novablast, it has a good deal more plastic overlays than the 18 does. But I think they both are going to be very durable over time, so I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. Also, you'll notice that with the Novablast, that at the base of that eyelet chain, there's some base notches there. And that give me a really good fit in that toe box area. I didn't have the material bunch up, which I tend to have oftentimes in shoes, just because I have a little bit of a narrow forefoot. So I like that feature. Also, you'll notice that there's a pretty big difference just in the laces themselves. Saucony went with a very plush padded lace, which is kind of an interesting choice by them. I'm not sure that it's completely necessary, but it just added to the feeling of the luxurious comfort that they were going for when they made the shoe. Let's turn now and look at the tongue on both of these shoes. The Asics Novablast is pretty thin and lays pretty flat on my foot. It is padded towards the top, The only issue that I had with that is it did seem to dig in at times on the side of my foot. So it was a matter of just kind of relacing it and finding a position where it was most comfortable for me. Not a huge issue, and it wouldn't deter me from buying those shoes again. It was just something to note. Now, looking at the Triumph 18, that tongue is padded and it is fully cushioned, which goes along with the theme of that entire shoe, the way that they designed it. It is gusseted on both sides, so that keeps it in place. But having said that, I never had any issue with the tongue, even though it's not gusseted on the Novablast, moving around at all. So I thought that both did an adequate job. They just went about it very differently. Now let's take a look at the padding around the heel collar as well as the heel counter area. And we'll start with the Novablast. There's plenty of cushion here, guys, to keep your feet comfortable on your runs. I never had an issue with that at all. I always felt very comfortable having this shoe on foot. But now let's look at the Triumph 18. It's as if they tried to jam as much padding in these areas as they could possibly get. Just look how puffy that heel collar and counter area are. Yes, it's very comfortable. I think it might be just a little bit overdone, but I did enjoy the fit and the feel of having this shoe on foot. Now let's take a look at the heel counter on these shoes. Both have plastic overlays that are very rigid, and they create a nice solid pocket for your heel to set in. I felt very secure out on the road running in both of these shoes. I didn't have any heel slippage in either one, not up or down or side to side, so it was really comfortable that way. Let's turn now and look at the midsole on these shoes, and we'll start with the Novablast. That midsole is made up of their Flight Foam Blast material, and it's 32 millimeters stack height in the heel and 22 millimeters in the forefoot. It's worth noting that in the women's version of the shoe that it's slightly less, so it's 31 millimeters in the heel and 21 millimeters in the forefoot. Both men and women's have a 10 millimeter drop from the heel to the toe. And as we look at that Flight Foam Blast material, you'll notice that it has a lot of geometric shapes and designs that have been sculpted into that foam. And according to Asics, that was done intentionally to give it the maximum amount of bounce in the shoe. Oftentimes, you'll hear this shoe described as being squishy, and I have to totally agree with that. If you're just standing in the shoe, it can feel a little bit unstable, but I didn't notice that out on my runs. Now let's take a look at the Triumph 18. Their midsole is made up of their PWRRUN Plus foam material. It's 32.5 millimeter stack height in the heel and a 24.5 millimeter stack height in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop from the heel to the toe. Saucony did very much like Asics in that they sculpted that foam in a way to give it their maximum bounce or energy return. Now let's flip these shoes over and we'll take a look at their outsole, and then we'll talk about the performance and what it's like to run in them. Let's start with the Novablast, and you'll see that they have their AHAR Plus material from the heel to the toe. And they claim that this material is 50% more durable than the high abrasion material that they've used in the past. Also, you'll notice that they have a pretty deep groove in that outsole, and that's to give you somewhat of a trampoline effect, so a little bit more bounce in your step. Now let's take a look at the Triumph 18, and you'll see that they have blown rubber basically from the heel to the toe, very little exposed foam. They too have a slight cutout on that outsole, much like the Novablast, just not nearly as pronounced. Both shoes have plenty of rubber covering up or protecting their foam. I think that they're both going to be very durable over time, and you can get a lot of miles on them. I also felt like they both had plenty of traction out on the road, so I never felt like I was insecure even when I was picking up the pace, going around corners. There were times when I was running on surfaces that have a little bit of moisture on them, because oftentimes I run in the morning or in the evening and you get a little bit of dew here and there. And I felt very secure out on my runs in both of these shoes. Now let's talk about what it's like to run in these shoes. The Novablast, to me, is a faster shoe. It's a little bit more natural on foot through my gait cycle. I just felt like there was a little bit more give when I go to toe off. where the Triumph 18 is a little stiffer when I toe off. I didn't feel like it flowed quite as evenly or smoothly through my gait cycle as the Novablast did. Now, the Novablast isn't a shoe for everybody. It can feel very unstable because of how squishy that material is that they used in their midsole. Whereas the Triumph 18, I think, is more of a every runner shoe. I don't think that too many people would have an issue running or feeling insecure or unstable in that shoe at all. It has more of a bounce to it. It is a heavier shoe, but it's capable of going great distances and keeping you comfortable out on your runs. It has tons of padding. It does run a little bit hotter on foot, but you do have a little bit more area in that toe box. So if you want to splay your toes a little bit, maybe going downhill for a little bit of balance, you're going to have a little extra room there to do that. Overall, I do enjoy running in both of these shoes. I just feel like the Asics Novablast is a little bit cooler and a little bit faster on foot, but you can't take away from the comfort and the luxurious feeling that the Triumph 18 has to offer. Both of these shoes are great long distance, max cushion, comfortable daily trainers that I think you might enjoy. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe give it a thumbs up. As always, run tall, run strong, and be kind to one another. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.